Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to the Easy Come, Easy Go podcast. This is Wayne Bennett. This is our 20th episode, and it's the day before Father's Day, June the 19th, 2021. And so some of you may not get to hear this till after Father's Day, so we're going to celebrate Father's Day week. And guests today are my wife Diane and my friend Bernard Bostick. Welcome, people.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
You know, I did a little research. I didn't know this, but Father's Day actually started, the observance of Father's Day in 1910 in Spokane, Washington, at the YMCA. And this lady by the name of, I think her name was Sarah Dodge, she did a thing to honor her father, who raised 6 kids by himself. And this was 3 years after Mother's Day was begun in West Virginia. So I guess you learn something every day. And, you know, a lot of people, as far as there used to be gifts for father would be ties and golf balls and things like that. But it seems like today the couple of hot items, I've never heard of this, but they have a portable tire inflator that you can carry in your pocket, and I don't know how it works, but it will blow up a regular sized car tire, and that's out on the market now. It's really popular. There's the collar that men can wear around their neck that has a built-in fan that'll blow if they sweat a lot. And then they have the plastic welder. You can carry that in your pocket too. It's supposed to be 50 times stronger than the strongest glue, and it uses plastic to weld things, put things together. You'd have to watch carrying that in your pocket. You wouldn't want that to hit the wrong button, I guess. But then on the other side, things you can get your father if you wanted to. For $79.50, you can send a picture of your dad into this company, and they will make a bobblehead doll of your dad. And it'll look just like him. So,
no, that's a birthday gift for my brother. That's what that is.
Or you can get a game called Beeropoly instead of Monopoly, and it's kind of set up on the same way. You roll the dice, and whatever square you end up on, you have to start out with beer, and whatever block or you end up on, you have to do whatever it says. So you may end up taking a drink. And they also have community drinks where everybody takes one. There's dancing involved and several things. Good man game there. And this one's been around a long time for those guys at golf. They have a potty putter where if you're sitting on a commode and you get kind of bored, they've got a short putter and a little small green, and you can practice your golf putting while you're sitting on the throne.
I'm not going to say anything about short putters.
And that's been around a while. I don't have one, but something kind of goes along with that now. This year they just came out with, you might have a dual purpose. They have what they call a Tushy Spa, and it's a bidet for men. Has several attachments. I'm afraid to ask what kind of attachments you have, but it might go along with the putty putter that you purchase. But you can get on your bidet buying guide and find out what the attachments are. So those are some of the things that some of the guys might get for Father's Day or might have gotten. I don't know. We got Bernard and Diane here. We're going to tell a couple stories about our own parents, dads, and I'll start it off. My dad, his name was Aubrey Bennett, and he was a carpenter, built a lot of houses around the area, and he had a lot of strengths, and he had little idiosyncrasies too. One of them, he loved to drink beer. He loved Stroh's beer, and actually, when he quit drinking, I think that's when the Stroh's company went almost out of business. They haven't heard anything about him since then. But and he liked to gamble. He didn't like to bet on sports or play machines. He liked to play poker, and this all happened almost 50 years ago. But we were building this house that Diana and I live in, and we finished up on a Friday afternoon and had a couple of guys helping us, and they were talking about playing poker. And I never was much of a poker player. And so Dad had a deck of cards in the truck, and so they threw down half a sheet of plywood on some spackling buckets, 5-gallon buckets, had a temporary light. We had electricity and plumbing already in the house. And threw down some more 5-gallon buckets and sat on them. And we all started playing poker. This was Friday afternoon, about 4 o'clock. And so after a couple hours, I wasn't winning anything. And it was time to go home for me. And so I left the other three still playing cards. Stopped in at the local bar down the road, and couple guys sitting in there. What you been doing? I said, we've just finished up, been playing some cards and playing a little poker. Oh, they still playing? I said, yeah. What if we let anybody else play? I said, yeah, I'm sure if you go up there. I said, it's kind of crude, but so they came up here, joined in the game, and that's how it got started. And they played and they played. And then when somebody left, of course, the bartender heard about it, and he was telling people, they got a card game going on up at Bennett's house, And so when one guy left, another guy would come up. And my dad was the only one that hung in there the whole time, and they played till Sunday. They played from Friday, 4 o'clock in the evening, till Sunday. And I guess he would take breaks and go out and sleep in the truck or go get something to eat or whatever. But there was always somebody to fill in. And they finally broke up the game on Sunday. I didn't go back. I didn't get back involved with the game. But that's how much he liked to play. And I'd always heard about this game in Thurman, West Virginia, that was at a hotel. And of course, they had a passenger train that come through there and stopped regularly. Heard about a game that lasted almost 13 years, I think, and I believe it. I could see how I know it probably didn't have the original guys that started, but I could see with how this happened. But that was my dad. And what about you, Diane? Well, my dad passed away in '91, and your dad's still around.
Yeah, in fact, my dad is 90 now, and his name is Virgil Dennis Pack. A lot of people called him Sonny. He still plays music, rock and roll, country, whatever you got. Of course, they don't play in the bars anymore. He will go over to a friend's house and they'll jam all day. And of course, he pays for it when he gets back for the next couple days because it just about wears him out. But he still loves music, and he instilled that in all of us kids. Danny, my brother, plays the guitar. I play the trumpet. Another sister plays the trumpet, flutes, saxophones, dab a little bit in piano, but he always made sure that we had some kind of musical instrument. When I was growing up, I thought they were going to get me a piano because he told me, he said, Saturday we're going to Guy Falcini's music store, which was on the corner there where the McDonald's is now, across the street. He had a little shop there. And we went down and he signed me up, not for piano lessons. He bought me an accordion. Now, third grade, playing accordion, nobody I knew played accordion. And I played that until I got into about the 6th grade. And then I finally told him, I said, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, I've been playing the same songs. They never get any new music. I said, and it's kind of embarrassing. I'm getting ready to start middle school. So, no, I don't want to play anymore.
Well, that's why I married you. I thought you could play the polka.
Yeah, but
the beer barrel polka.
Yeah. But Dad likes instilled that in us, and a good work ethic. You know, you get up, you go to work. It doesn't matter unless you're in the hospital dying or on fire. Yeah. You get up, you go to work, and you never leave a job unless you have a job to go to. So he was always that way with us, and we learned that early. He had Danny and I filling out his little cards. He drove a Richmond truck. He owned his own route. He owned his own truck, and he would just pick up clothes for Richmond dry cleaning. And he was down around Mullins, and I don't know where all he went, but he knows all those people down there, and he can talk to people and tell them exactly where they lived and everything. And he did that here not too long ago. In fact, he got pulled over by the police last Friday. They told him he was speeding in his Chrysler van there. And turns out that he knew the girl's grandfather, the policewoman's grandfather, and they sat and chatted for the longest time. Of course, she didn't give him a ticket, thank God, but but anyway, yeah, he's something else. And I mean, 90 years old. Of
course, now that you got that on the air, she's fired from the police.
Well, you know, she can get in and give him a talking to. So,
okay.
You know, he needed to slow down a little bit, and you know.
Bernard, I had your dad in school, and he gave me a passing grade, so he can't be a bad guy.
No, he had a lot of compassion for the less intelligent people in his classes. My dad was he lost his dad when he was 10 to a heart attack, and so his mom raised a blended family, and he graduated. I want to say he graduated from high school in 1949, and there was several people that kind of took him under their wing during his life that showed up at the right time. One of them was Lawyer Fowle, the old man. He had Dad was coaching Little League baseball, and Mr. Fowle had convinced him to go to college. Dad had always wanted to go, but he couldn't afford it. And Mr. Fowle made some calls to Morse Harvey, your alma mater.
All right.
And got Dad in. And Dad ended up with loans and grants and that kind of thing. And he went 4 years, stayed down there over the summer, and then went to WU, got a master's degree, and was, again, fathers in bathrooms. He was in the bathroom getting away from me and my brother, and was reading the newspaper, and there was an ad for Beckley College. They needed a biology teacher. Well, that's what Dad had majored in. And so he went up there on that Monday and applied for it, and he ended up teaching 1 year in Clear Fork High School, maybe 1963 or so, and until he died, soon be 3 years ago, they invited him almost every year to come to the reunion.
Clear Fork did.
Clear Fork did.
Wow.
And so he taught at Beckley College for over 30 years, and everybody I've ever met, if they ask me, they remember him well. I had him for one class. He jumped on me because I was talking too much, took me out in the hallway and said, I needed to act like I had some sense and be quiet. And other people weren't as smart as me, and so they needed to pay attention, which is where I get my sarcasm. But, I mean, I've never had anybody say a bad word about him. He loved to teach. His work ethic was probably a little different than Diane's dad's. He wanted to go to work, but he didn't want to start. He didn't ever had a class before 9 o'clock, and he was usually done by about 2 or 3. I mean, if there were labs involved, but he enjoyed that. He loved to read. There's a lot of things I got from him that I appreciate. My dad was kind of like a really fine wine. You could only take a little bit of him over a long period of time. For me and my brother. Now everybody else, you know how it is different. But I mean, I love to read because of that. I love science because of that. I love history because of that. Early memories are going out, Little Beaver, and digging up plants for him to take back to his laboratory classes. We went to some farm down there on Trap Hill for different things. Little Beaver for frog eggs again. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, and he was very intelligent. As long as I could talk to him about anything at all, and he was very knowledgeable about it. But after about 10 minutes, we'd be arguing about it. I don't care if we knew it all or if we didn't know anything about it, we'd be arguing about it. And that's just how he was. And as he got older, we had some arguments. He didn't like not being able to drive and not getting out and doing, just like everybody else. And I really got worried after a while about his driving habits. Anytime I'd get in traffic between any stoplight and Woodrow Wilson, I knew he was probably the reason for that. And several times he really was.
Well, he was an excellent teacher. I mean, I had him for biology, and it wasn't necessarily my favorite class when I was taking earlier classes, but he did a real good job. And my dad was a builder. He worked in the coal mines 20 years, and then the doctors told him he needed to get out because he had black lung, and so he started building houses and remodeling. And out in our area, the Piney View, Standiford, Lanark area, he probably built 8 or 9, 10 houses for people, and for somebody that only had a third grade education, he was really good at figuring things like that. Did I tell you he liked to gamble? Well, back then with all the little bars around. You could almost always go to the bar, and in the back room you could get in a poker game. And Diana and I only had one car. We were living in this house. We couldn't afford another payment at the time, so we just had one car. And we had to meet a lot, had to walk a lot, had to wait a lot till the other person could go get them. And so he one day he calls me up and he said, "I got a car for you." And I said, "Well, I can't afford a car." "Well, it ain't gonna cost you nothing." And he said, "I want it in a poker game." And I said, and I just kind of wondered, of course, what kind of car do you win in a local poker game? And he said, "I'm gonna bring it to you, and you got to put it in your name and in your insurance and everything, and you can use it until I might need it. Might not give you much notice, but you can use it for a while. It'll help you out." I said, "Okay." Well, man, here he comes, and he's got a almost brand new Mustang car. I mean, we'd never seen anything like that. And I mean, I was thinking some old jalopy, and he'd won it in a poker game over around Mount Hope somewhere. So we got the car, put it in our name, put our license on it, and drove it, and he never asked for it back. And we had it almost a year, didn't we? Mm-hmm. And then we done got used to it, and he calls me up one weekend. Got to have that car. Lost it in a poker game. And so we gave it back to him, and by that time we'd done been used to 2 cars, so we had to get another car. Anyway, we were financially able to do it, but it was just one of them things. But you would never think in one of these small games like that a car would pass back and forth, but that's just the way it was. But I don't know. I don't think your dad ever played any poker, did he?
No, he's not a game person, you know. All he ever did was really just play music and work. You know, we saw him during the week. We'd see him a little bit because then he'd come home, he'd get his clothes changed into whatever outfit that they were wearing that night to play. He'd go out, and of course by the time he got back in, we'd be in bed. I mean, even during the week when he was working, he'd still, you know, go and play music and
That's
stuff.
That's a hard life.
And he did that, like I said, you know, he did that forever. And they don't get together every weekend, but every so often they get together and have a good time jamming stuff. But he likes car shows. He has a vintage Volkswagen, and he likes to take that out and show it and stuff. So
he does all the cruises and car shows, and he does quite well.
Scares me to death sometimes, especially on those cruises, you know, where you have to keep up with everybody and then be able to stop on a dime and stuff like that. But he does real well, I'm telling you. For 90 years old, he'd still be out there working if somebody would hire him.
Yeah, he actually applied for a job the other day delivering stuff. And Bernie, you got to tell a story about your dad walking in the race that we were at.
Well, yeah, I'm like a lot of people. I've got a lot of stories, but I can't tell all of them. But Dad was kind of absent-minded, and I like to think that he was like the absent-minded professor, that he was always thinking about something. I know I am, but you just get in habits of doing things. And one of the first races on the bike trail, he always liked to go to them. He'd come up here in the summer from wintering in Florida, and he'd hang around the inn, and they'd give him all the extra fruit, and you'd see him walking to the car with 2 armfuls of bananas he'd never eat, but depression kid, and you know, that's just how they were.
You just take it.
You just took it. And so, you know, we're running that race, and I'm running, and it's towards the end of my running career, and Dad's going to walk it, and he gets started, and you were supposed to go up and turn around at the new newspaper building. Well, he didn't know there was a newspaper building, so I turn around, I pass him. Dad, how you doing? Yeah, fine. Don't forget, turn around newspaper building. Okay, son, I got it. Well, he stops and talks to the people at the newspaper building. There's a turnaround there. I think there's a water station there or something.
Yeah.
And he just keeps going. Well, they thought he was just walking. So he walks all the way down
to the old one.
To the old newspaper building, which is the only one he knew of.
Yeah.
And, you know, Val and I go home. I think she had walked in it. And have you heard from your dad? No, I haven't. Well, where he is? And I said, well, I don't know. Well, don't you think you got to look for him? I said, well, I guess obviously you think that, so I guess I will. So I go back and I ask the people, I said, man, you guys see my dad? Well, everybody knew him. No, we haven't. Has he come through? No, he hadn't come through yet. Well, they were packing up and leaving. And I went, oh, God, you know, what am I going to do?
Where is he?
Lost. Well, he called me. You called me, and we were standing around. We waited till they gave all the awards out. I wasn't even thinking about his dad. But then he said, "Did you see Dad go finish?" And I said, "No, I didn't see him."
No, but finally we found him, and I think I ended up finding him in the parking lot. He was loading up to go home. And, well, you told me it was the newspaper office. Oh, Dad, yeah, but I meant the new one. I didn't know there was a new one. Why didn't you tell me there was a new one? Which then was another argument, which, you know, that's just the way it was. But Dad was, I mean, he went to Europe several times. And 2 times that he went, he just signed up to stay at people's houses, which I'm sure the people experience not the typical American experience. But I mean, it didn't bother him to talk to new people. I mean, he is a teacher, so obviously, it was pretty good for him. But he would go and stay a week at some person's house in Kent, England. And then maybe he would go and stay 2 or 3 you know. And of course, they got compensated. Not like what they thought, I'm sure, but it was, he would do that. And when he moved to Florida, one of the first things he did down there, he worked in a hardware store for a while. Then he volunteered at a state park, which was kind of a swampy kind of area. So, they'd be out cutting brush and running around in four-wheelers and that kind of stuff. So he always did stuff, but he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. And fortunately, at Beckley College, he got in with a bunch of good guys, and he got a schedule, and I mean, he did everything. And one time he taught Western Civ, he taught biology, he was the head of the night school, and he was the financial aid director, and he was the head recruiter. Now, part of that, I assume, was because he just didn't want to come home. But that was fine with us. But, I mean, he wasn't afraid to work, but
it was on his own time.
It was on his own time, and when he got home, then he taught me how to work.
Yeah.
He one of the things, a lot of things was funny, but one of the things was that, no, son, you're not old enough to cut this grass. You're not tough enough to cut this grass. Well, then, by God, yeah, I am too. I'm like 6 years old pushing a lawnmower. Could have had and it took me a long time to figure it out. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
When we used to go out at Abraham, that was where my dad was raised, and it had to go the old way. That's before 64 was completed all the way through Sandstone, that area. And my dad would, if my brother or my sisters or me later get a certain ways out the Abraham Road, is about 15 miles off the main road there, then he would sometimes let one of us drive, even though we didn't have a driver's license. It might be 14, 15 years old. And then you hardly ever met another car at that time, and I don't remember whether it was one of my sisters or whether it was my brother, but I was in the back seat and Dad was on the passenger side, and we had the windows rolled down, and I think my brother or my sister was driving. And about halfway out the road, my dad said, "I need to pull over here. I got to use the bathroom." He probably drinking a Stroh's beer at that time, but so the driver pulled over, and when they pulled over, they hit a bunch of branches that was hanging out over the road, and there was a hornet's nest in the branches. And I don't know whether the hornet's nest was still active or not, but the way that the car with the open window caught that thing, the nest broke off from the tree and fell in my dad's lap on the passenger side. And it was like, it all happened so quick. I was just barely seeing it. Well, it lands on his lap, and he goes, "No, don't stop here," and he throws it back out the window, and never got stung. Like I said, we don't even know for sure that it was even active, but it was some really quick thinking on his part. But I think at the first time I ever drove out there, I could barely see over the steering wheel, but it really didn't matter to him. That kind of reminds me of the Alan Jackson song, "When Daddy Let Me Drive," and but thank God we didn't wreck none of them, I think. But well, guys, man, this happened. This goes so fast. This is I hope everybody has a good Father's Day week, and for all the dads that are around, hope you have a good week, and the ones that passed on, just keep watching over us. We'll still think about you a whole lot, and the listeners out there, if you're listening on Facebook, go up to the top of the page and hit follow. That'll kind of help our rating a little bit, and we sure appreciate that. And remember, until next time, if you ain't dead yet, you ain't done yet, and God bless you. Thank you very much.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
Love you, Dad.